Hello and welcome back to the sideboard here at SCG Nashville. I am joined by Team Chris. We have Christopher Andersen, Chris VanMeter, both faces very common to you folks at home who pay attention to the Open Series coverage. And they are playing the same 75 today, and it's a blue-black Tezzeret deck. This is a deck that sort of hangs out on the periphery of the Legacy metagame. Every once in a while it'll take down an Open. So this, Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about where this came from?
Okay, well, it actually started when I was watching that Chris's deck tech, invitational deck tech for his Metalworker deck. So it had like Goblin Welders and Metalworkers, Grim Monoliths and stuff. And I realized like the reason that deck was so good is because Chalice of the Void is insane right now in Legacy. There's just a bunch of really good targets. It shuts down half of the decks by itself. And Chalice, I think, is something that I definitely wanted to be doing going forward. However, I didn't like that it's like that deck is pretty all in on its opening 7. You know, it doesn't have very much card selection, card draw, or anything. So I wanted to build a deck that gave me a better and like a mid game, something that I can, if I don't have the nut draw in my opening hand, I can still go toe to toe with a lot of the other decks in Legacy. And I think this deck does a really good job of that.
You have the full 8 Planeswalkers, 4 Jace, 4 Tezzeret.
4 Jace, 4 Tezzeret. Like,
the 4 of both hasn't really been seen since pretty much the first standard Grand Prix after Tezzeret was printed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think like Chapin top-8 that Pro Tour. I don't even know if he had 4 Jaces, 4 Tezzerets.
Yeah.
I think it was like 4 Tezzeret, 3 Jace.
Was it?
Okay, how funny is that?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. You took the Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Chalice of the Void with controlling artifacts idea, but instead added blue cards, which is Legacy.
Yeah, exactly. So that gives me access to Force of Will, which is obviously great against combo decks. I'm not conceding that percentage. So yeah, basically what I did, I knew that Caleb Durward won a Legacy Open about a year ago in Cincinnati. With the Tezzeret deck. So I looked at that deck to start for a starting shell, and there were some things that I really liked about it, like the 4 Baleful Strixes, the Signets I think are fantastic.
You're running 3 Dimir Signets and 3 Talisman of Dominance.
Yeah, I liked a couple of the tutors. Like he had 2 Ratchet Bombs, engineered explosives, like to deal with like Nimble Mongoose and stuff, like creatures in general. He actually had a Karn in his deck though, and there were some things I didn't like. Like he had a Karn. He had, instead of a Thopter Sword package, he had a Wormcoil Engine and Solemn Simulacrum.
Right, that brings us to one of the more interesting parts of this deck, which is an extended all-star combo of Sword of the Meek, which is an equipment that combos very well with Thopter Foundry. You can see it in the card images on the side of the screen. And Transmute Artifact, which is a poor man's Tinker, basically, in this format. So this Chris, he saw you on television, decided you were close, but we wanted to try something different. When did you come into the picture with this deck?
Well, he shipped me his list like right after the Invitational, and I was like, yeah, this deck looks really awesome. Then we just didn't really talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
And then like a few days ago before this, he was like, hey, I'm still going to be Tezzerating this Open. Are you along for the ride? And I'm like, hell yeah.
Nice.
Like the deck is just awesome.
Sure, everybody on board.
I'm a big proponent of like the soul lands, I like to call them, the double mana lands. Like, I played them in Hive Mind, played them in the Metalworker deck. It just does some really unfair things, like playing Jace or Tezzeret on turn 2 is just really, really good.
Absolutely, which you can do by playing one of your City of Traders or Ancient Tombs on turn 1, using
Signet.
that to play a Signet or a Talisman.
And then land. And it's like when Tezzeret like first came out and like there were the decks around him, like a lot of things that people said, and I believe Chapin said this as well, was that like in a Tezzeret deck, Tezzeret is better than Jace. So like that's why he was 4 Tezzeret, 3 Jace.
Yep.
It's still true now. Like Tezzeret is just
we can't play 8 Tezzerets though.
Sure.
Most of the time I'm just like Jace, bounce your guy. Untap Tezzeret, 5/5 attack, you bounce your guy. Like he's just like Jace is just like the best unsummon.
Or like unsummon gain 5 or something like
or
that.
Or if you have a Chalice in play on 1, you can bounce their 1/1 or their 1-drop creature and then it's gone.
Right, getting rid of Insectile Aberrations that can never play Delver of Secrets again.
And
or Noble Hierarch.
The Thopter Sword package has been awesome. A lot of decks just can't beat it. They don't really have any way to interact with it.
We saw Andersen on camera earlier. Where
I
the
got
Thopter
Liliana
sword.
ultimated down to nothing but Thopter sword, drew a land, and then he just couldn't beat it.
And he couldn't beat Thopter sword, which is a very powerful combination. So you also have some very good cards in the sideboard. Obviously, having Transmute Artifact and Tezzeret affords you to run a lot of singletons.
Yeah, we can run some bullets.
We have
got some bullets on the main.
Engineered Explosives, Ensnaring Bridge, Ratchet Bomb, and Nile Spellbomb, all as singletons in the main, as well as Seed of the Synod, actually.
Sure. I don't think we're going to be transmuting for that anytime
Probably
soon.
not.
Like the last edition we made was the Academy runes.
Yeah, we had 2 Ratchet Bombs, and at the last minute, Chris wanted to add an Academy runes to the deck. I was thinking of it as a land, so I was like, I don't want to add an 8th colorless land. We've already got the 7 soul lands, but we decided to cut a spell for it. So, and because it functions a lot like a spell, and it's been really good so far.
And you've got
like
pretty happy.
22 lands.
Absolutely, yeah. And you've got even more targets in the sideboard, singleton targets in the sideboard. You have additional ensnaring bridges. You have a Meek Stone.
Yep, fantastic against Rug Delver, like always.
Yep.
You know, I'll always play Meek Stone.
It's also good. It's also good against Maverick. Like any deck with neither Reliquary.
Merfolk too.
Yeah.
You also have a Trinosphere in the sideboard, perhaps a card that not a ton of people are used to playing or seeing. Has an interesting interaction with Omniscience
And Dreamhalls.
and Dreamhalls that you guys didn't know until the
Yeah, we
tournament.
just found out around.
I had to verify with the judge.
Nice.
Because I played against it in the first round of the tournament, and I mean, it's pretty sweet.
We put
They
it,
just can't beat
in there for Storm and High Tide, but it ends up being really, really good against Omniscience too.
Now, we have a lot of weird ones in here, but we only have one card from Dragon's Maze in the 75.
We do have a Dragon's Maze card.
And it's a nice one if you want to have some stories later in the day. You both have stories.
I do.
Based on your Notion Thieves. You go first with your Notion Thief story.
Well, an opponent cast High Tide, or not High Tide, but I was playing against High Tide. He cast Time Spiral. 3 cards in his hand. I know one of them is Wipe Away.
Sure.
But he has some High Tides running, so my Underground Seas give me extra mana. So I was able to play Notion Thief in response to the Time Spiral.
And even if
still
he wipes
having
it away.
4 mana available, expecting him to just bounce it, maybe cast it, and then 14 for 1M. Fortunately, one of the other cards was a Force of Will, and I ended up losing the game, but it's still pretty sweet.
Yeah.
This didn't actually happen to me, but Chris and I were discussing it, that if against Omniscience, if they enter the Infinite you can in response go Notion Thief, and
As
instead
long
of
as you have less cards, you have more cards in your library
than they do, because they draw their deck. Usually they do have more cards in their deck than you, or less cards in their deck than you do, because they are like brainstorming and pondering and preordaining and whatever. And the only real draw spell in our deck is Thirst for Knowledge. So a lot of times we have more cards in our deck than they do. So instead of them drawing their deck, they get nothing and put a card back, and we draw their deck-ish. And we've got Academy runes, so it prevents us from decking. And then the next turn when we untap, we can put a Chalice for 1 into play, so we don't get like brainstormed out or something. Because they use the brainstorm as a kill spell.
Right.
Yes, because it's not a May.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is
not a May ability.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. So this deck looks like a ton of fun. I remember when I was talking with Caleb last time I saw it. Every time I see a Tezzeret in Legacy, I'm just super happy about it.
It's so much fun.
And this looks like this is a great deck, and you're both doing well. You're still undefeated.
Yeah, I'm 4-0.
You're X1.
Yeah, they're excellent.
And I anticipate we'll see you guys on camera again. Thank you so much for bringing it by the sideboard.
I wanted to give credit where credit is due. I talked to Caleb a lot when I was building this deck. You know, like I just picked his brain. Like, what things did he think shouldn't be messed with? Like, for example, the explosives and the ratchet bombs and stuff. He's like, I kind of wanted to try Detonations in the main deck, and he's like, yeah, these are good enough. The artifact removal spells. Then also talked to him about what he thought like wasn't necessarily vital, like the Wormcoil package.
Sure.
Also, I was searching the source forums like a few days after I built this, and I found out like in their Tezzeret forum, a couple of guys had built a list that was eerily similar to mine. So I'm not stealing your guys' idea. I came up with it independently, and I think you guys did a great job too building that.
Shout out to some other folks out there.
Whoever on the source that built that.
I'm sure they're watching this video once they heard about the deck.
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
Well, good luck, guys, and thanks for coming by the sideboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.